Hey guys, what's up? It's Kevin for the win, and we're back for another edition of Diablo 3. Today on the channel, we are taking a look at the Helltooth Harness set for the Witchdoctor class. This is your Season 23 Starter set. You get this for completing your Chapter 2, 3, and 4 Seasons Journey, where they give you 2 pieces of the Haggard's Gift for each completion. You're guaranteed all 6 pieces. You are not guaranteed them as Ancient Legendary, though, so that's the disclaimer there. I'm going to show you the most optimal build for the set. So the 2-piece bonus is pretty complex. It says enemies hit by your primary skills, which is Acid Cloud, Fire Bat, Zombie Charger, Zombie Dogs, Gargantuan, Grasp of Death, etc., become slowed and take 3,000% weapon damage for every second for 10 seconds. We're going to be using Zombie Charger for this particular build, and as well as Zombie Dog, so that's kind of a mouthful. The 4-piece bonus says, after applying Necrosis to an enemy, you take 6,000% reduced damage for 15 seconds. Now, that kind of plays into the 2-piece bonus, because when we cast those things, we cast kind of our own type of poison ability known as Necrosis. The 6-piece bonus, after casting Wall of Death, gain 17,500% increased damage for 15 seconds to your primary skills, which is Acid Cloud, Fire Bat, Zombie Charger, Zombie Dogs. We're going to be using Zombie Charger for this build. So, we are going to be using pretty much most of the full set for Helltooth, so we're using all these pieces as you see here. Some of them are Ancient Legendary. We're also going to be using Captain Crimson in this set, because Captain Crimson allows us to get a bit more damage based on the amount of cooldown that we have. Here's the 2-piece set, as you can see. 6,000 life per second, reduced cooldown of all skills by 20, as well as resource. And then basically damage dealt is increased based on the amount of cooldown that you have. So we're going to be using the belt and the pants in place of that. We're going to be using the Ring of Emptiness and the Compass Rose in conjunction with the Traveler's Pledge. That way, when we are moving, we take less damage when we're standing still, which we will be doing anytime we cast Zombie Charger. We'll be doing more damage. Lakumba's Ornament, because we're going to be using Locust Swarm. We're going to be using Soul Harvest, because the amount of Soul Harvest stacks that we get will give us a lot of damage output. We need this offhand Ursur's Trogon Efficiency that basically gives Zombie Chargers deal 143% increased damage, and it basically casts more Zombie Bears, so we get like 8 amount. These are the skills you will be using. Zombie Charger is where all our damage is mostly coming from. Zombie Bears is the one that we want to go through, where Stampede of Bears attack the enemy. Spirit Rock Severance, that way we can increase the movement speed. Leeching Beast, Zombie Dogs, that way you can get a little bit of health back from Zombie Dogs, as well as procure the 2- and 6-piece bonuses, or 2- and 4-piece bonus, I should say. Soul Harvest Languish, that way we can increase the amount of intelligence to do more damage. Wall of Death, Wall of Zombies, that way we can create a line of zombies to prevent things from coming towards us, and then get the 6-piece bonus to activate, so that our Zombie Bears do more. Passives, Blood Ritual, Swampland Attunement. We are also using Spirit Vessel and Confidential Ritual. Inner Cube, absolutely important that we run Scrimshaw. That way we can deal more damage with the Zombie Bears, and they basically change their amount of Zombie Bears that we have. Tasker and Theo, that way our pets can do more damage. Zombie Dogs, and we need Ring of Royal Grandeur, because we are using Captain Crimson and not the full piece, so we want all the full piece bonuses for every piece of armor that we're using on this build. Now, this is a very slow build. This is more considered a push build. This is probably the more optimal build to go for in your seasonal journey as you try to get better armor, such as the Mundunugu, which is still, despite a bit of a nerf, the S-tier armor for the Witchdoctor class. For the purposes of this showcase, we are going to do greater of 60, 65, and 70. That way I can kind of show you roughly how the armor operates and what you kind of should be striving for your Season 23 Starter set. I recommend once you get a better armor, like Mundunuga pieces, that you swap out and go for one of those particular builds. Okay, so when we get into the Grey Rift, the first thing you want to do is Soul Harvest, and then start casting your Zombie Bears. They will automatically cast the Necrosis ability, so they're getting 3,000% increased damage, plus the Scrimshaw, so they're pretty much going to be one-shotting thing. The problem with Zombie Bears is that they don't move very far, so you have to kind of rely on the fact that mobs are programmed to come towards you. Now, when you see necessarily elite packs, such as these, that's kind of when you should be casting your Wall of Death. That way you can have the zombie line and that they get hit, so that you can power up the Zombie Bears further. On the lower greater rifts, you don't have to rely so much on the Wall of Zombies so much, but it is good to cast them because the low-level mobs and all the elite packs are programmed to attack towards you. Now, for the legendary gems for this armor, my recommendation, since we are using Captain Crimson, and you want Wall of Death to be able to cast quite a lot, I recommend Goak of Swiftness, Bane of the Stricken, because zombie bears, you can constantly channel them, so they can do accumulated damage that way. And I would also recommend Bane of the Trap, because Necrosis is kind of considered a status effect, and it doesn't hurt to slow down enemies as well. As you can see, you're using the bears to kind of one-shot things. Since you have to stand still a lot with this particular build, keep in mind that you are not going to get super fast clear times. It's all about basically pushing. Pushing means that you're just kind of constantly pushing the enemy back until you achieve the greater rift clear time. We use Spirit Walk to get a little bit of speed to kind of clear the gap, but basically you're going to be relying on Soul Harvest to increase your amount of intelligence. Make sure you try to get that to 10 stacks at all time and try to maintain that. Then you're going to cast your Wall of Death when it seems appropriate to do so, which I mean a lot of mobs in the area and a particular elite pack. And then mostly all your damage just comes from zombie bears. You could channel Locust Swarm every once in a while, but you're not necessarily going to use that, or the Piranhas, unless you are seeing a Rift Guardian towards the end where you need to just kind of do extra damage. Zombie bears, really, it's just cast zombie bears. On lower graders, mostly it's just cast zombie bears and Wall of Death, and that's basically how this armor operates. The reason why we're not using Acid Cloud is because you already don't need it for the build, and Acid Cloud as a primary skill is not really that good. Fortunately, Helltooth is a little bit better this season, because last season, Season 22, they actually buffed the 6-piece bonus to 17,500%, and they also added a offhand for the zombie bears to be able to be used effectively. Zombie Charger, that's the offhand we're using, as well as giving Scrimshaw an actual ability that works in conjunction with Zombie Charger. So that's something definitely that's good about Helltooth, that it got enough buffs. Is it in S tier armor? No. If you are looking to play Witchdoctor for Season 23 of Diablo, I would use this as your Hatred gift. Follow this particular build if you can, to kind of just get pieces of Mundanugu, and then I would farm for that and use that. That's going to push you much, much higher and get you way high up into your seasonal journey and clear some of those harder objectives much more fast and efficiently. This can push, and it can push you for the season. You might be able to push the higher challenges with somewhat ease, but you have to spend a lot more time augmenting armor pieces, and that's a lot of time spent leveling up legendary gems, which I think would be better used for Mundanugu or Jade Harvest, in my personal opinion. But this is not the worst armor. At least it's a step up from Zunimasa, which I showed off not too long ago. But it's a far cry from Mundanugu or Jade Harvest, which perform so much better than this particular option. Now, in terms of optimization for this particular armor, obviously, the first thing that I'm going to talk about is getting high crit hit ratio where possible. So on your helm, I would recommend crit hit ratio of 6.0%. If you have the possibility to get 8.0% on your helm, definitely try to go for it. But 6.0 is just as fine, so no worries there. On your gloves, my recommendation is that you get all three of these stats. I know it's quite a while to try to get a good RNG of it, but definitely it's worth it. My recommendation for the gloves is 6.0 crit hit chance or 8.0% crit hit chance. Crit hit damage must be at 50%. That is my recommendation. And then if you can get attack speed 6.0, 7.0, or 8.0, an attack speed of any of those values will work very good for you. Now, for the Rift Guardian that I just took out, basically what I did was cast a Wall of Death, so I get the 6-piece procured, and then cast a Zombie Charger. And usually you should be able to take out most enemies with relative ease. As you can see here, I'm just going to randomly level up a gem because I have everything's leveled up quite high. As I'm showing you here, those are the gems I have leveled up. So Simplicity, Strength, I'm just going to level up for no reason outside of that. I will probably use it to augment armor piece. Not this particular armor in general, guys. It will be a different armor. So for those of you who are wondering. So yeah, that's optimization on your helm and your gloves, as I was talking about. The rest of the way, I would recommend wherever you can get 15% on Zombie Charger. and also Wall of Death. Definitely invest in that. However, I think it's more important, since we are using Captain Crimson in this build, to put cooldown reduction wherever possible, because the more cooldown reduction you have on your armor in general, the more damage you will be doing based on the free piece bonus of Captain Crimson. Now, if you're playing Seasonal Journey, you are not going to have access to Captain Crimson right away. Captain Crimson drops from goblins that you get via plans. My recommendation very early into your Seasonal Journey, since you're going to need to put things in Kanai's Cube anyway for this build, is to do many, many bounties. The more bounties you do, the higher chances you're going to encounter goblins that drop the plans for the Captain Crimson set. So definitely start doing your bounties very early. They also will help you clear out some of your objectives usually for a Seasonal Journey, so definitely do that. Then start Kanai and cubing. Scrimshaw is very important. It's a sword, though, so because zombies don't have a lot of sword options in general, what you could do is just get some rare swords and then just upgrade them with death breaths, and you will probably run into Scrimshaw weapon generally fast. My recommendation, though, you just want Sacred Harvester as your weapon, and cube Scrimshaw. It's just a better option. Scrimshaw doesn't get as good as rolls as you can get with Sacred Harvester. Then, obviously, also you want a Captain Crimson. In the beginning, it's not really going to matter for Ancient Legendary, because you're just going to use it to try to get yourself to a good position with Mundunugu, unless you're planning to just play it entirely for that season. Helltooth. Then definitely try to go for the Ancient Legendary roll. But you're going to basically want to go bounties, do a lot of bounties first. Then you're going to have to do a lot of Nephilim Rifts to be able to get a lot of Death Breaths to then get the sword that you need. And you're probably also going to need Death Breaths for your Kanai's Cube as well, because you got a Kanai's Cube quite a bit. Tactical Confia will drop quite a bit as you are just grinding in your season, so don't worry so much about that. Really just focus on Scrimshaw, your offhand, which is very important that you have that offhand, because this build will not work if you do not have the offhand and then Scrimshaw's Cube. If you don't have those two things, you will not be able to do this type of damage with your zombie bears. So keep that in mind. As you get higher up in the greater rifts, you are going to see that the clear times are going to get significantly longer, because the enemies have more HP, and although this set is pretty good at pushing, it doesn't deal as much damage, and the fact that you have to stand still to cast Zombie Charger becomes a problem a bit. Another problem in particular with why Zombie Charger is not used as much, and why Helltooth is not as good of an armor, I think this is probably like a C tier armor in my personal opinion. That's my personal opinion. That's not like based on official tier lists, so just throwing that out there. Is the fact that zombie bears, when you're in very narrow hallways such as that, have a hard time going on all directions, actually hitting enemies, because the more narrow the hallway is, the less amount of bears are able to move around to do the maximum amount of damage, which becomes quite annoying on particular dungeon layouts such as this one, where the corridor is generally narrow, where you can't hit as many targets swarming you as you would like to, and as you do when you're in a more open area type of dungeon layout. So that's definitely something that is a significant drawback. And it also kind of plays a role into why you don't get faster speeds. The fact that you have to stand still, the fact that if it's narrow, look, case in point right here, you are just not going to be able to hit as many targets. And it's just slow, because every time you cast a Zombie Charger, you have to stand still. And then you have to kind of make up with your Spirit Walk to be able to make up some speed. So it's a good push build. So if you're not trying to like get high leaderboard placement with your Witchdoctor, and you're just kind of playing the season to get the pets and to get like just all the goodies and rewards you get for the season, then definitely, you know, you don't have to really worry about speed. And you could use this for as long as you like, but I think it's going to take a while for you to start hitting greater with 80, because once you get to 70, in case of when we're in 65, and although we're pretty well up in there in the stats, it's still taking quite a long time to clear through things. You're going to have to spend a lot of time optimizing it and wasting a lot of ancient legendary gems at like sometimes level 70 even, to be able to just get to that level 80 and that level 90 mark. And as you're getting higher up, even the conquest, it's going to be quite difficult. You're going to have to spend more resources than, in my personal opinion, from the many, many seasons in Diablo I've played. And just the fact I've played every Witchdoctor armor set that it's really just not worth it, I recommend Mundanugu. Mundanugu has nerfs. We are going to discuss Mundanugu not this week, next week, because I'm covering on Friday Gears of Dreadlands first. That also got a bit of a nerf, although it's not as significant as people are making it out to be. Probably about 30 seconds roughly, but we're going to cover it over. I'm going to show you kind of how it's performing now based on the nerf to the weapon that's used in the Kanai's Cube for, as well as how kind of Hungering Arrow and the way and the amount of times it pierces has been kind of nerfed to kind of make it so that Gears of Dreadlands is not the end-all, the be-all armor that it was in Season 22 when it was introduced, and now, or not in Season 22, correction, Season 21 was introduced, and Season 22 were just kind of dominated, mostly leaderboard position because of how fast and clear. But we'll be discussing that on Friday's video. This is Wednesday's video. So you guys know, I actually, on Tuesday, which was this Tuesday, got my COVID-19 vaccine, the first dose of it. So I finally got my COVID vaccine. It's good, you know, I might be feeling a little bit under the weather for the video. So, like, if you hear on Thursday's video or Friday that I'm a little sniffly or anything of the sort, it's probably, or I'm a little under the weather, it's because of the vaccine. I don't really anticipate it's going to affect video production at all on the channel. But if I do sound then like a little bit nasal for Thursday's video, it shouldn't be any nasal really for this video though. Definitely, I did get my COVID vaccine, the first dose. My second dose is scheduled for May 4th, so that's good. So ironically, I'm getting it on the anniversary of Star Wars. So COVID vaccine dose 2, so by end of May going into June, I will be fully vaccinated. It's felt like forever, and it's a big relief off my shoulder to know that I will have that somewhat sense of protection and layer of protection against, you know, people who perhaps are not getting vaccinated. I recommend if you haven't gotten vaccinated and you're eligible, definitely do so. Do your part to help prevent the spread of the virus any further so that we can all kind of get back to work and back to actual true normalcy. And the only way to do that, I don't want to like really sound like a soapbox, is for everybody to do their part and get vaccinated when it's your chance. And things have opened up in New York, so if you're from New York like I am, where it's open to everybody pretty much at this point, outside kids, definitely make your appointment. I got my appointment through Walgreens. They're probably one of the best places to get your COVID-19 vaccine appointments from because they tend to have a better supply of it, and it's the good ones, generally Moderna and Pfizer. So, and the fact that they automatically schedule you for the second appointment, and they don't have a lot of people there, and it's not like waiting in Jacob Javits Center or somewhere. So that's my recommendations, guys. I don't like to get too preachy about things that don't happen with gaming, but this particular thing with COVID-19 and just getting us all back to our normal life is so important that I had to actually say it. But I'm so relieved that I got my COVID-1, or the first dose of my COVID-19 vaccine. Felt like an eternity. Okay, so that was a greater of 55 clear time of about 6-7 minutes. So that kind of shows you we lost about 2 minutes there. That's how long it took to push. This is going to be a greater riff 70. This is the last greater riff I'm going to do because Helltooth is such a slow push build that's not really worth showing you any further than a greater riff 70 to show you how long it's going to kind of take. If you're playing Season 23 of Diablo, keep in mind that in order for Primal Ancient Legendaries to drop, and usually your Chapter 5 objective is to clear a greater riff of 70, you will need to clear a greater riff 70, so this is kind of what you're striving for, to be able to get to the higher part of your seasonal journey. So I'm going to show you how Helltooth is going to perform in that retrospect. You should generally still not really have problems. Squashing isn't the issue, it's just a matter that this is not a very speedy build. As far as Season 23 of Diablo is concerned, right now the best class to use, in my opinion, and I did do a video on this, it's available in the playlist, is the Barbarian class because they got the Whirlwind set, which is spin to win. Those are very easy builds to get the pieces you need for, very easy to operate, very easy to maneuver, very easy to level the gems, and it's just very, very easy and simplistic. So if you're new in Diablo 3, I would recommend this. That particular set, as opposed to this, Witchdoctor is one of those sets that you have to be a bit more intermediate in terms of play styles because there's a lot of windows here. Case in point, I have to maintain my Soul Harvest stack, so I had to keep an eye on that. I have to cast now a lot more Wall of Deaths because the mobs are a lot more tanky, have a lot more HP. The higher up you go in greater rifts, the more HP they have, which means they take more hits, and they also do more damage to you. So you have to be more cautious with your playstyle, particularly with zombie bears. Particularly, you just got to kind of lean back and let them come to you and hit through the wall of death, and then you cast the zombie bear. Because you really are focusing on wall of death to get the 6-piece bonus, so then the 2-piece bonus has extra damage that's being done to it. And then the 4-piece bonus kind of plays in between those two windows because you are taking less hits, but you really don't want to get hit with Helltooth because Witchdoctor is kind of a very, I don't want to say squishy, but they kind of are a squishy class, not as squishy as the Necromancer class. So there's a thing. So I basically right now I would say the best start is Whirlwind Barbarian. The next best build would be Demon Hunter because they got Accursed Visage, which is a really good multi-shot build. That's available in the playlist as well, so definitely check that out if you're looking to do Demon Hunter for Season 23, or you are doing Demon Hunter for them. And then I would recommend going Helltooth. That's like your third best option. It is a very far distance between third and second place, though. I must stress that. Then I would recommend probably, I would have to say Necromancer got Rothman, which is not particularly good. It got some changes to it. I've been experimenting with it, but I would say probably your fourth best option would be Raiment of 1,000 Storms, which is the monk build. That's available in the playlist. It doesn't say Season 23 on it because I just did it, ironically, at the end of Season 22, but all the information for that video has not changed. I will be revisiting it in the future of Season 23, but at a much later date. So definitely if you're looking for a guide to that, just check out the Season 22 one. It's got like 1,000 views on it right now at the moment. Same build, same information applies, so nothing from there has changed. Then I would say you would probably go Rothman, and then Talraja, Flashfire, although I'd say Talraja and Rothman are kind of tied for the worst armors that you could probably play for the season. I did do a Talraja build, though, for those of you who want to play Wizard, and that's going to be your Hager's Gift Flashfire build. That can do kind of decent for you up until about greater of 65, and maybe a lot of work to get that 70 clear. And then, but it could push you enough that then you could get the armor you really want. So maybe I put Talraja a little above Necromancer. Now, the followers actually can get now armor pieces, and they got kind of reworks of their special abilities and stuff. I have not had time to really farm stuff for my followers, which is why I haven't really covered any of the followers. I might do a guide on the different type of followers and the different pieces sometime within the month of Season 23. Keep in mind, I don't only play Diablo 3 on the channel. I also do guides for armor sets and builds for Monster Hunter Rise. So if you like Monster Hunter, definitely make sure to check that out. It has its own playlist. That just recently started because the game just recently came out. I also am doing Plants vs. Zombie. I play multiple games. Some games you actually have not seen on the channel that I've kind of rotate in and out of the schedule depending on the season. So that's definitely it. Diablo videos will still be Wednesdays and Fridays for this season. I'm not going to do 3 videos a week, mainly for the fact that we've covered a lot of builds last season, and some of the builds that I would cover at the moment, I just recently covered at the end of Season 22. Looking to build different type of guides for this season that I didn't get a chance to last season when we started our Diablo 3 content. For those of you who have been axing on the channel, yes, I will be playing Diablo 2 on this channel when it is released, and then maybe we're going to kind of change up how we do things. I don't know if Diablo 3 is going to be continue to be supported by Blizzard by then or not. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but we'll probably be a Diablo 2 video and a Diablo 3 video per week, depending on what really users want to see. If you have any comments or you want to share builds for Helltooth, definitely leave them in the comment section. We did one-shot the Rift Guardian there, Wall of Death and then Zombie Bears, and we had 10 stacks of Soul Harvest, which is how we one-shotted the Rift Guardian there. So that's how we did it. Got some loot, too much loot actually. See, I was pushing about 30k damage there. So that's it. So definitely let me know what you think of the Helltooth Harness armor. Is it something you'll be using in Season 23 of Diablo? Do you have a different build that you use with Helltooth that you feel performs better than Zombie Charger? Or you have a different type of Zombie Charger build that you are using with the Helltooth armor that you feel like sharing? Definitely leave it in the comments. I listen and respond back to all feedback, whether positive or negative. Case in point, when we did the Whirlwind Barbarian set that we revisited now for Season 23, I actually took the suggestion of a user that watches our videos, Living Dead, and incorporated it into the video, and that's just kind of how I roll on the channel. Sometimes these guys have really good suggestions, sometimes you have bad ones, but you give your feedback, and that's how I like to operate the channel. I do try out feedback that people give me. So, all right, that was about, what was that? 5-minute clear time, greater of 65. So, correction, that wasn't greater of 70. We did 55, 60, 55, 60, and 65 were the graders we did. Greater of 70 would be about 7 to 8 minute clear time if we did it. I'm not going to do it because it would just take like 10 minutes more, and we've covered this as much. Alright guys, so that's going to do it for today's video. Make sure you give this video a like if you haven't already, and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't. I will see you Friday for the next Diablo 3 video.